Jackson Rowe woke up with blood on his forehead. His ship had crashed hard. The control panel was broken. Smoke filled the small cockpit. Alarms blinked red. He kicked open the emergency hatch and climbed out. Outside, he saw tall red trees, glowing, plants, and a sky filled with two suns. He was not on Earth, not even close. His communicator was dead, his food was low, his leg was hurt. "Great," he muttered. "Just great." He looked around, no signs of help. No cities, no roads, only jungle. Jackson limped into the trees, dragging his backpack behind him. Hours passed. He didn't know where he was going. But he followed the sound of water. Finally, he found a small river and dropped to his knees to drink. When he heard it, a soft whistle, then a tiny voice. "Don't move." He turned slowly and saw something strange. It was a small creature, only 2 feet tall, big eyes, thin arms, skin like soft stone. It held a tiny spear made of bone. Behind it stood 10 more like it, all holding weapons, all shaking with fear. Jackson didn't move. He raised both hands. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. "I'm just lost." The little creatures whispered to each other in a soft language. Then one stepped forward. This one wore blue leaves on its head, it seemed. Like a leader, it spoke again. "You are not Shadow," it said. "You are not Beast." Jackson shook his head. "No," he said. "I'm just a man." The leader looked at him, then pointed toward the trees. "Come," it said. "You are hurt." Jackson followed. He had no better choice. They led him to a village hidden in the forest. Tiny houses made of stone and flowers, hanging bridges between. Mushroom-like trees, children ran and hid when they saw him. Adults stared with wide eyes. Jackson sat down near a small fire. They gave him fruit and a soft cloth for his leg. He ate in silence. They watched him closely. That night, as he rested near the fire, he heard something. A growl in the trees, then a scream, then fire. The village shook. One of the creatures ran toward him shouting, "Shadow beasts." They return. Jackson jumped to his feet. He grabbed the one weapon he had, his plasma knife. He ran toward the sound. In the clearing, he saw the shadow beasts, tall creatures with black skin and glowing red eyes. They moved like smoke, fast and deadly. They were attacking the tiny houses, crushing everything in their path. Jackson didn't wait. He ran forward and slashed with his blade. One beast screamed as the plasma cut through its arm. The others turned toward him. He dodged and rolled. Slicing another in the leg, the villagers screamed and scattered, but some stayed to fight beside him, throwing small spears and stones. Jackson kept moving, kept striking, until the last shadow beast fell. Silence returned. The fire burned low. The villagers stepped out from hiding, their eyes full of shock and awe. One old creature walked forward and kneeled before Jackson. Then all the others did the same. The leader stood up and raised both arms. "You are the protector," it said. "The one from the sky?" Jackson was confused. "I just helped," he said. "I'm not your chosen one," the elder smiled. "Our law is clear," it said. "He who saves the village must take the sacred one." Jackson frowned. The sacred what? The sacred bride. From behind the crowd, a young female stepped forward. She had bright green eyes, small silver markings on her skin, and wore a dress made of glowing threads. She looked up at Jackson and bowed. "I am Avia," she said, "daughter of the elder, by law. I am yours now." Jackson's eyes went wide. "Wait. What?" The villagers began to cheer softly. Flowers were thrown in the air. Drums began to beat. A celebration had already started, but Jackson just stood there, frozen. In one day, he had gone from crash survivor to warrior to groom, and he had no idea what would happen next. Above the trees, hidden in the dark clouds, something else was watching. A drone, silent and black. It sent a signal to a ship far away. Target located, human survivor confirmed, engagement protocol pending. The sun rose slowly over the jungle. Golden light touched the treetops as birds flew across the sky. Jackson Rowe sat alone near the edge of the village. His leg was wrapped in soft leaves. His weapon lay beside him. But his thoughts were not on the creatures he had fought last night. They were on something stranger, something he did not expect, marriage, behind him. The village was full of noise. Music played, children danced. Colorful banners made of flowers flew between trees. The people were preparing for something big. A wedding, his wedding. Jackson rubbed his face and sighed. "This is crazy," he muttered. "I crash-landed, fought monsters. And now I'm getting married to a 2-foot-tall alien princess." A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You don't look happy." It was Haravia, the elder's daughter. His bride-to-be. She was holding a small bowl of fruit and a cup made of crystal. Jackson looked at her and smiled awkwardly. "It's not that I'm unhappy," he said. "I'm just confused." Avia sat beside him and placed the bowl on the ground. "In our people's law," she said, "the one who saves the village becomes part of the family. You didn't just fight. You stood in front of the flames. You risked everything." Jackson looked down. "I didn't do it for a reward," he said. "I did it because it was right." Avia nodded. "That is why the law chooses you," she said. "You didn't come here to lead us. But you acted like a true leader." She offered him the drink. He took a sip, was sweet and cool. He let out a soft breath. "I don't even know you," he said honestly. Avia smiled. "You will," she replied. "Marriage in our culture is not about control. It is about walking side by side." Suddenly, the village drums changed rhythm. A deeper sound echoed through the trees. A large group of elders came walking from the far side of the village. They wore bright cloth and long necklaces made of bones and crystals. In the center walked the high elder, holding a glowing staff. He stopped in front of Jackson and raised both hands. "Today, we honor the protector," he said loudly. "Today, the heart joins the shield." Jackson stood up slowly. He didn't want to disrespect their culture, but he was still unsure. "I need to ask something," he said. Everyone went quiet. He looked at Avia, then the high elder. "Do I have a choice?" The high elder smiled gently. "Of course," he said. "Sacred law must be followed by sacred will. If your heart says no, we honor that. No anger, no shame." Jackson looked at Avia again. She didn't look afraid. She looked calm. She was giving him freedom with her eyes. He took a deep breath. "I don't know everything about your people," he said, "but I know you're good. You helped me when I was broken. And you trusted me when I was a stranger." He turned to Avia. "If you're willing to walk beside me, I'll walk with you." The crowd cheered. Drums beat louder. Flowers rained from above. The wedding ceremony began. They placed a small necklace around Jackson's neck, made of red crystals and silver roots. Avia placed her hand on his chest. He placed his hand on her shoulder. The high elder spoke again. "Let this union be not between power and size," he said, "but between soul and courage. Let the protector and the heart be one." As the celebration continued, strange things began to move in the forest. Far from the village, metallic shadows shifted between trees. Silent flying drones scanned the jungle, recording the ceremony, watching. Jackson, on a ship high above the planet, a voice spoke through a black screen. "We have confirmed the human's position. He has made contact with the Mylon." A second voice replied, "Send the team. Do not engage yet. Observe and wait for command." Back in the village, Jackson was talking with Avia. Near a small fire, she was telling him about her world, about old legends of humans who came long ago. Some came to fight, but some came to protect. "There is a story of a man with fire in his hand," she said. He stood against monsters and gave us light. Jackson looked at his own hand. I don't have fire, he said, but maybe I can help in other ways. Avia looked at him seriously. There are worse things coming than shadow beasts. She said, my dreams are filled with metal eyes and cold voices. Jackson nodded. I know that type of threat. He said, they're not just stories. Suddenly, a small guard ran up to them. Protector, he said, breathing fast. Theirs. Something in the sky. Jackson stood quickly and looked up through the clouds. He saw blinking red lights, moving slowly, circling above the village. Avia stepped closer. Your past has followed you here, she whispered. Jackson clenched his fists. Then it's time I protect more than just a village. He said, it's time I protect a people. The red lights in the sky did not leave for 2 days. They circled above the village like hungry birds. The Mylons stayed close to their homes. Guards watched the skies every hour. Jackson stayed alert. He checked his gear, sharpened his blade, and walked the outer line of the forest again and again. He knew trouble was close. But it hadn't shown its face yet. One morning, Avia came to him with a strange map. It was drawn on soft bark, with lines and symbols burned into it. This was left by my grandmother, she said. She said it leads to the first fire. Jackson raised an eyebrow. What's the first fire? He asked. Avia looked serious. A power buried under the village, she said. Something the old protectors left behind. They followed the map through a narrow trail behind the waterfall. It led to a deep cave with glowing moss on the walls. As they walked, the air grew cooler. The cave opened into a huge underground space. There were walls of black stone, broken machines, and a large metal door. Symbols covered the surface. Jackson ran his fingers across them. They're human, he whispered, but very old. Avia placed her hand on a circle in the center of the door. It lit up. The door slowly opened. Inside was a control room covered in dust. Screens blinked weakly, showing static and numbers. A large platform stood in the middle. A forgotten machine, round like a throne, sat on it. Jackson stepped forward. He felt something in his chest a pull, a heat like fire under his skin. This is it, he said. He sat on the machine. The room responded at once. Lights turned on, screens cleared. A voice spoke in English. Protector DNA confirmed. Initiating core scan. Avia stared in shock. Jackson looked around. What is this place? He asked. The voice answered, Outpost 12, Human Defense Base. Built to guard the Mylon colony, memories flooded the room. Projections showed images of battles long ago. Shadow beasts crawling from deep rifts. Humans and Mylon, fighting side by side, then silence, then darkness. Jackson stood slowly. We didn't abandon them, he said. We were wiped out. Avia touched his arm gently. But you're here now. The machine platform rose from the ground. Under it was a storage chamber with weapons and old gear. Jackson picked up a black vest with silver edges. It was light but strong. He also found a pulse rifle still working. He smiled. Now we're ready. Suddenly, a red alarm lit up across the screens. Warning, unauthorized units detected. A map appeared. Small red dots moved fast toward the village from the east side. Avia stepped forward. That tunnel leads under the farms, she said. They're going to surprise us. Jackson grabbed his rifle. Not if we stop them first. They ran back through the cave and alerted the guards. Jackson gave instructions. With hand signals and calm words, he had led soldiers before. Now he led the Mylon like they were his own unit. They trusted him, they followed him in the deep tunnels under the village. Jackson moved like a ghost. Avia was beside him. Holding a light crystal, behind them, a team of small warriors followed with short bows and traps. The air was tight. The sounds of metal feet grew louder, and then they saw them, black machines. tall and armed, moving through the tunnel like spiders. Jackson raised his hand. "Wait," he whispered. The machines paused. Then one of them scanned the wall and spoke. "Target near. Prepare for engagement." Jackson opened fire. Blue light flashed in the dark. The first machine fell. Then the Mylon launched nets and fireballs made of hot gas. One by one, the machines exploded or collapsed. But more came from deeper tunnels. Jackson ran ahead, drawing fire, shouting for Avia to fall back. She hesitated, then obeyed. Jackson reached a narrow choke point. He turned and set a mine on the wall, then dove behind a stone. The mine exploded, collapsing part of the tunnel. The rest of the machines were trapped on the other side. Dust filled the air. Silence returned. Avia ran. To him, he was coughing but smiling. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah," he said. "That was fun." They returned to the surface. The villagers cheered when they heard the news. The High Elder stepped forward and touched Jackson's forehead with a crystal leaf. "You are not just protector. Now," he said, "you are flame-bearer." Jackson looked confused. "What does that mean?" he asked. Avia smiled. "It means they believe you're the one who will lead us into a new time." That night, the stars were bright, but Jackson didn't sleep. He sat by the fire with his rifle and looked at the sky. Avia sat beside him. "Do you think they'll come again?" she asked. Jackson nodded. "Yeah," he said. "And next time, they won't just bring scouts." Avia looked down. "Then we must be ready." He smiled at her. "We will be," he said. Far above, in space, a large ship turned toward the planet. Inside, a tall figure stood in front of a screen. It showed Jackson's face. The figure pointed and said one word: "Capture." The night was too quiet. Even the insects had gone still. Jackson stood on the village wall, staring into the dark jungle. The stars above were blocked by thick clouds. It felt like something was coming, something big. Avia walked up behind him and handed him a warm drink made from fire root. He took it with a small smile. "You feel it too?" she asked. Jackson nodded slowly. "They're coming tonight," he said. "I don't know how, but I know." The elders had gathered the warriors near the village center. Traps were set, weapons were ready. Old tech from the underground base had been spread out and armed. The Mylons, small but brave, stood with their heads high. Jackson walked through them. He checked their armor, their bows, their courage. "You've trained well," he said. "You're stronger than you know." From the forest, a loud cracking sound echoed through the trees. Then another, then silence. Jackson raised his rifle. Avia stood beside him, holding a crystal staff that glowed with soft blue light. She had chosen to fight, not because she had to, but because she believed. Then it came. A shape broke through the trees. Not one, not two, but many, tall machines, dark and sharp. With red eyes and long claws, behind them was something even worse. A massive creature, half machine, half beast. It roared, and the ground shook. Jackson's eyes narrowed. "That's not a scout," he said. "That's a destroyer." The village? Drums began to beat. The Mylons shouted their war cry. Jackson raised his hand. "Hold," he said. "Wait." The machines marched closer. Their feet crushed the grass. Their arms turned into weapons. "Now!" Jackson shouted. Explosions burst from the ground as traps triggered. Rocks fell. Flames shot upward. The first wave of machines was stopped. The Mylon rushed forward with fire spears and nets. Jackson moved through them like lightning. His rifle fired blue energy bolts, dropping enemies one by one. Avia moved beside him, her staff glowing with energy. Every time she struck the ground, shockwaves pushed machines back. But the destroyer didn't stop. It marched through the burning traps and broken ground like a tank. Its chest opened, revealing a spinning cannon. Jackson saw it. "Cover me," he shouted. He ran forward, sliding under falling trees and jumping over broken metal. The cannon charged with red light. He dove behind a stone just before it fired. The blast turned the ground into glass. Jackson crawled closer to the monster. He pulled a small device from his belt, a pulse grenade. He pressed the button and threw it into the open chest of the destroyer. Boom! The explosion knocked it off balance. But it didn't fall. It roared again and slammed the ground with both fists. The shock wave threw Jackson through the air. He landed hard, gasping for breath. Avia saw him fall. She screamed and ran toward him. But a machine blocked her path. She struck it with her staff. Cracked, but didn't break. She hit it again and again until it finally dropped. Then she reached Jackson and knelt beside him. "Are you okay?" she cried. He opened his eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "Still breathing?" he whispered. The destroyer marched toward them. Its arm turned into a blade. Jackson tried to stand, but his leg was badly hurt. The cannon on the creature's chest began to charge again. Then the Gorok appeared, a beast from the forest, huge, silent, and full of scars. It leaped from the trees and slammed into the destroyer with full force. The ground shook. The two giants fought with claws and fire. Metal clashed against bone. The village watched in silence. Jackson pulled himself up with Avia's help. He looked at the fighting monsters. "We have to end it," he said. She nodded. He handed her his last energy cell. "Put this into your staff," he said, and hit the destroyer in the chest. She looked nervous. "But I'm not a soldier," she said. "You're more than that," Jackson said. "You're a leader." Avia ran forward, dodging debris and fire. The Gorak had weakened the destroyer. But it wasn't enough. She climbed onto the back of the beast. It saw her and roared, but she was faster. She jumped to its chest and slammed her staff into the core. The energy cell exploded. A wave of blue light burst out. The destroyer froze, then cracked, then exploded in a storm of sparks. The battlefield went silent. The machines stopped moving. Some turned and ran into the jungle. Others simply shut down. The Mylon stood still, then slowly began to cheer. They had won. They had defended their home. Jackson leaned on his rifle and smiled as Avia returned to him. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied. "We did." That night, the stars were clear again. Fires burned warm. Songs were sung. The Mylon celebrated not just a battle won, but a future saved. Jackson looked around at the faces. He saw family now, not strangers. He saw hope, but high above, in deep space. Another ship watched the battle from far away. A cold voice spoke through. "The shadows, the human is stronger than expected. Send the collector, bring him alive." Morning came slowly after the battle. Smoke still rose from parts of the forest. The village was quiet, tired, but still standing. Jackson sat outside his hut with Avia beside him. His leg was wrapped again. T held a warm drink made from sunberries. She looked at the forest and spoke softly. "Many were hurt, but we survived." Jackson nodded. "But the fight isn't over," he said. "The villagers worked hard that day. They rebuilt broken huts and cleaned the paths, but something had changed." Now they looked at Jackson not just as a protector, but as someone who had awakened something. Inside them, pride, strength, hope. Even the elders walked with new energy. Later that evening, the High Elder asked Jackson and Avia to meet him in the ancient chamber beneath the tree temple. They followed the elder through a spiral staircase lit by glowing crystals. At the bottom, there was a round stone door covered in carvings. The elder pressed his hand against a center symbol. It lit up. The door opened slowly. Inside was a hidden room filled with old machines. And on the far wall a mural, painted in colors that still glowed. It showed a tall human in armor standing beside a small Mylon holding a bright staff. Behind them, giant machines and black beasts burned in flames. Jackson stepped closer. "This is from the First War," he whispered. The High Elder nodded. "You were not the first human to come here," he said, "but you may be the last." Avia walked to the mural and touched the figure with the staff. "This is my ancestor," she said, "the one who first joined with a human." The elder pointed to a glowing sphere at the center of the room. "This contains the full history of our people," he said. "Stories we kept hidden to protect the future." Jackson stepped forward. "Why me?" he asked. "Why now?" The elder looked him in the eyes. "Because the stars are turning," he said, "and darkness wakes again. We need not just a fighter, but a reminder, a bridge between what was and what can be." Jackson placed his hand on the glowing sphere. A stream of light shot into the air. Images formed above the mold battles, humans landing on the Mylan world long ago. They were not soldiers at first. They were explorers, scientists, builders. They helped the Mylan grow in peace, but something changed. Dark ships arrived from deep space. The machines with red eyes, the same kind that attacked recently. They didn't want land. They wanted silence. They erased memory, destroyed knowledge, and burned every trace of the old empire. But some survived. The Mylan hid their history. They whispered it through generations, waiting for the one who would come again. The one who would light the fire. The vision ended. The room grew quiet again. Evia wiped her eyes. "My people were not weak," she said. "You're waiting, Jackson." Felt a strange strength in his chest. "They don't have to wait anymore," he said. Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A loud thump echoed from above. Then another, and another. Jackson grabbed his weapon. The elder rushed up the stairs. They followed quickly, outside. A strange ship hovered above the trees. It was round and silent, dark as stone. It didn't shoot. It didn't land. It simply opened. A figure floated down slowly, tall, covered in silver armor. No face, just a mirror mask. The village froze in fear. The Mylan backed away slowly. Jackson stepped forward. The figure spoke in a smooth, calm voice. "You are the human. You carry the code. You must come with me." Jackson didn't move. "Why?" he asked. "To answer for your past," the figure said, "and to decide the future." Avia stepped in front of Jackson. "He is not yours," she said. The figure tilted its head. "He is not anyone's," it said. "But all of you will burn." If he refuses, Jackson stepped beside her. "If you want to talk," he said, "do it here." "No." The figure said, "You come now, or your village will vanish." The Gorak, still wounded from the last fight, stepped forward with a growl. More Mylan raised their weapons. Jackson looked at all of them. Then at Avia. "I have to go," he said. She grabbed his hand tightly. "No." She said there must be another way. Jackson touched her forehead gently. "There is," he said. "You survive." He turned to the silver figure. "I'll come," he said. "But only if you leave them alone." The figure nodded slowly. "Accepted." A light beam came down from the ship. Jackson stepped into it. Avia watched as he was pulled up into the sky, her eyes full of fear and fire, high above the planet. Inside the cold ship, Jackson stood in a dark room. The silver figure turned toward him. "We will see what kind of protector you truly are," it said. Jackson's world had changed in the cold ship. The silver figure never revealed a face, only spoke in soft words full of power. "You carry the legacy of the old protectors," it said. "You must choose now. Return to save your village, or stay and join the hunters." Jackson's heart beat fast. He thought of Avia, of the tiny village, of the fires still burning below, back on the planet. The village was tense. Days had passed since Jackson's capture. Avia led the people. She kept their hope alive. But the sky was not calm. Strange ships appeared on the horizon, silent, dark, and deadly. The hunters had come. The village prepared again for battle. This time, not just against beasts, but against machines and men. Jackson's voice was a memory, a spark that lit the fire. They would fight for their home, for their families, for their future. Inside the ship, Jackson trained. The figure taught him about ancient weapons and tactics. He learned to control energy, to command without words. His body grew stronger, but his heart stayed on the village below. He could feel the pulse of their land, the pulse of his promise. One night, the ship's alarm screamed. The silver figure turned to Jackson. "The hunters have found the trail," it said. "We leave at dawn." Jackson closed his eyes. He whispered, "I'm ready." The next morning, the ship descended through thick clouds. It landed in a hidden valley near the village. Jackson stepped out into fresh air. Avia and the warriors waited, their faces bright with relief. But the danger was still near. Suddenly, the sky darkened with dozens of ships. The hunters came. They unleashed machines and weapons. The ground shook under explosions. Jackson led the defense. He used the ancient weapons from the ship. Energy shields shimmered around the village. He fought side by side with Avia. Together, they became a symbol of hope. The battle was fierce and long. Many fell on both sides. But Jackson's new strength and knowledge turned the tide. The hunters began to retreat. Jackson chased them to the edge of the forest. He stood tall and shouted, "This is our home. We will protect it." The hunters disappeared into the stars. The village was safe for now. Jackson and Avia stood together, watching the sky. She smiled softly. "You came back," she said. Jackson nodded. "For them," he said. "For us," the village celebrated their victory, but Jackson knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast. The old wars were not over. And he was no longer just a survivor. He was a protector. The village was peaceful again. The fires burned low. Stars shone brightly in the clear sky. Jackson stood beside Avia on a small hill overlooking their home. The tiny houses and bridges glowed softly in the moonlight. The air smelled of fresh flowers and warm earth. Jackson felt a calm he had not known in a long time. People moved around the village. Some worked on rebuilding old walls. Others shared stories around fires. Children played with small animals. The village was alive, but also changed. The people looked at Jackson differently now. No longer just a stranger, but as their leader. Avia smiled at Jackson. "You have become part of us," she said. He nodded. "I never wanted this," he replied. "But I would protect you all with my life." She took his hand, "And we will face whatever comes." Together, news had spread beyond the forests. Other villages and tribes sent messengers. They spoke of the human who saved the tiny aliens, of the protector with fire in his heart. The village became a beacon, a place where different races came for help and peace. One day, a small child ran up to Jackson, her eyes bright and curious. She held a tiny flower and said, "Will you tell us the stories?" Jackson smiled and sat down. He told stories of Earth, of stars and ships, of courage and hope. And the child listened closely. But beyond the stars, new challenges waited. The hunters were not defeated forever. Other forces stirred in the dark. Jackson knew the peace might not last, but now he was ready. He stood at the edge of the village one evening, looking up at the sky. A ship appeared in the distance. It was large and shining. Jackson felt hope. Perhaps help had arrived. Avia joined him. "What do you see?" She asked. "A future," he said. "A future we will protect together." They watched the ship come closer. The village below was silent, waiting for what would come next. Jackson held Avi's hand tightly. He thought of the journey, from crash, survivor to protector, from stranger to family. He knew this was just the beginning. The story of the human and the tiny aliens would spread through the stars. A story of hope, of unity, of courage, and the protector smiled because he had found his home.